Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you appreciated my attempt at being more consistent. Today I wanted to have a discussion on Brendan Fraser and Huy Quan and how they're essentially having a renaissance. If you're cultured, you would be aware of Brendan Fraser and his many movies that define my childhood, such as George of the Jungle, School Ties, and the Mummy trilogy. He was one of the biggest actors in Hollywood in the 90s and early 2000s. This was until the mid-2000s when he was blacklisted from Hollywood after he claimed he was sexually assaulted by the president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, Philip Burke. I'm not even going to go into the details of what allegedly transpired, but if you've watched any of my previous videos, you're probably aware about the issues I have with Hollywood. To be completely honest, it feels like he was gaslighted because although he received a handwritten apology about the incident, Burke, who first described his account as a total fabrication, later admitted he groped Brendan in jest. I don't know if anyone else agrees, but to me this sounds like sexual assault. If we want to be technical, to grope someone is to touch someone's body in order to get sexual pleasure, usually when that person does not like it. I hope at the very least we can kind of see how that's sexual assault, and my advice to people would be to keep their hands to themselves. The thing is, Philip Burke was eventually expelled from the Hollywood Foreign Press Association in 2021 for an email he sent to the other members of the organization where he described the Black Lives Matter movement as a racist hate movement and referred to the founder, Patrisse Cullors, as a self-proclaimed trained Marxist. I imagine all of this could have been avoided only if the organization took sexual assault seriously and didn't have to feel public pressure to actually do the right thing. Huy Quan, who was a refugee born in Vietnam, was a child actor in the 80s and starred in movies such as Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Goonies. However, as a result of the lack of roles created for Asian actors, in the 1990s, he left the movie industry, choosing to attend USC before making his return 20 years later in the hit movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Until recently, Hollywood had a knack for casting white actors for Asian roles because they didn't think Asian actors were marketable. This is known as yellowface, and similarly to blackface, white actors through makeup would be made to look Asian, often accentuating stereotypical Asian facial features, which would include using tape to pull their eyes up.
But back in those days, I have to tell you this, the Good Earth, the leading role was played by these guys with the eyes taped up like this, and they talk like this, and the producer said the Asians were not good enough, and they are not box office. But look at us now, huh?
This essentially portrayed a caricature of Asian people that was used to mock them. The stereotype of yellowface comes from a time when Western countries decided to conquer and enslave the rest of the world. I'm sure we're all aware about Europe colonizing Africa and the Americas. However, I rarely hear about them colonizing Asia, specifically Southeast Asia. There's also the fact that later, the US and European countries would also start wars in Asian countries, for example, China, Japan, and Vietnam. I could honestly make a whole video on colonialism, the West, and Asia, but I'm going to try not to get too carried away. But a lot of the stereotypes that Hollywood has and continues to portray about Asian people stems from the Yellow Peril, which was used to depict Asian people as an existential danger to the Western world, who were seen as primitive and not human the same way as white people. The racist idea was depicted in a racist cartoon called The Yellow Terror in All His Glory, which depicted a violent and barbaric Chinese man standing over a white woman who represented the Western world. If you look, the man is holding a gun, a toy, and a knife, essentially portraying Asian people as a danger and a threat to the West, and their value of marrying their cousins, colonizing, enslaving, and looting from supposedly primitive countries. Ironically, some of the reasons that later made white people hate Asian people and see them as a threat, such as being the model minority, is what white people benefited from in the 20th century, eventually using it against other minorities, which we see especially in the US. Some movies that portray this yellow peril depiction of Asian characters are in movies and TV series such as Breakfast at Tiffany's, where Mickey Rooney, a white man, plays a Japanese character, Aloha, where Emma Stone, a white woman, plays a character of Chinese and Hawaiian descent, and How I Met Your Mother, where 3 members of the main cast wore yellowface depicting Asian stereotypes and accents all in one episode. It's also kind of funny how in Aloha, Emma Stone just looks like a white woman. There's no winning casting a white woman as an Asian character, but watching the movie, they don't even try to make you believe she's Asian. But at least they didn't do yellowface, so I guess that's something. As well as this violent depiction of Asian people, Hollywood would also hypersexualize and fetishize Asian women, which depicted Asian women as exotic, which has been harmful towards Asian women and the way they're treated by men, specifically white men. In the future, I might be looking to make a video on how Hollywood has hypersexualized women of color, because I think this is still so relevant and as harmful as ever. If any of you are aware of the white man who entered 3 different massage parlors in Atlanta, killing 8 people, a majority who were Asian or Asian American women, which he claimed was as a result of a sex addiction. As we can see, how certain races are portrayed and represented in movies have real life consequences that can actually cost people their lives. That was a long digression, which I think is relevant to why an actor as talented as Huy Quan might be forced into quitting acting because he could not find work. As he couldn't work in front of the screen, Kay worked behind the scenes, working as a stunt coordinator, and after the success of Crazy Rich Asians in 2018, he was inspired to return to the industry, and the rest is history. My biggest problem that inspired me to make a video on these 2 actors is the way their comebacks have been portrayed. I don't deny that they're having a renaissance of sorts. However, the description of their return as a fairy tale has bugged me, and this culminated during the award season. There's something grotesque about watching a room full of people who either refused to hire or blacklisted Brendan Fraser and Huy Quan, now fawning over them, wanting to take pictures with them, and pretending that we just didn't know how talented or marketable these men were. Brendan Fraser was sexually assaulted by a very powerful man in Hollywood, and when he came out with it, he was shunned and struggled to find work. Some people even made fun of him because he's a man who looks like he's physically able to defend himself. This, in addition to the fact that he was going through a divorce, drove him into a depression, and now every celebrity wants a picture with him. Every magazine wants him on their cover, and he's won the most coveted award an actor could win, an Oscar. What is even more farcical about Huy Quan and Everything Everywhere All at Once award sweep is how it's been skewered into this interpretation of an American dream. Kay even says it in his speech.
This is the American dream.
And it only makes it more upsetting because he and tons of other Asian actors have been shut out of the industry, and Hollywood has been able to welcome them back again, while twisting the perception from how racist the industry is to how it provides opportunities, how it fulfills people's fairy tales, all while actualizing the fairy tale that is the American dream. It's like white Britain taking credit for decolonization, even though they partook in it and arguably benefited the most from it. It's like me taking credit for stopping a fire that I caused. Ironically, although Crazy Rich Asian was such a box office success in 2018, until Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's like they forgot Asian actors can actually also lead box office hits as well as white actors. The same as when Black Panther came out and Hollywood were forced to acknowledge that black representation in films matters, until they forgot, and another black-led film had to remind them. I mean, just this year, how many black films and black actors that deserve to be nominated were not? Viola Davis and Danielle Deadwyler weren't even nominated in favor for Andrea Riseborough, who herself did nothing wrong, but had friends who violated Oscar rules just so she could be nominated. By the way, I'm also still mad that Jamie Lee Curtis won the Oscar over Stephanie Hsu, because she can't be the only one in this picture that doesn't have an Oscar. The Hollywood foreign press tried to pressure Brendan Fraser into signing a statement that claimed Philip Burke's behavior was intended to be a joke, and when he refused to sign this statement, it was seen that Brendan would be ostracized from the industry and treated like a pariah. The contradiction of Burke and the Hollywood Foreign Press Association claiming there was no wrongdoing, but Burke still admitting to groping Brendan is so ridiculous because it's almost like they don't hear themselves. Although Burke has shown no consistency in what occurred and whether he touched or didn't touch Brendan, Brendan Fraser has stuck to his accounts so far that even though he was nominated for a Golden Globe, he refused to attend the awards ceremony and has refused to be coerced into supporting a narrative that isn't true to him. And I'm sure there are people in the industry who probably believe he should be thankful for being welcomed back, for being given another chance, but I hope he's not, because this time he's got a whole generation rooting for him and ready to go to war for him.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Something I haven't seen much about was the fact that although Huy Quan has found success in Everything Everywhere All at Once, he actually struggled to find work after filming. It wasn't until the box office and commercial success of the movie did things in his life actually truly start to change. In the 3 years since March 2020, when he finished making Everything Everywhere All at Once, Huy Quan has said that nobody wanted to hire him and that he was worried because he was about to lose his health insurance. He was willing to do anything just so at least he could qualify for health insurance. And though he was desperate enough to do anything, nothing ever came. And ultimately, he did lose his health insurance. I think that's genuinely crazy because I would think that even though the general public didn't know who he was or how talented he was, I'm sure there are people in the industry who must have known how talented he was and still is. Someone with as little talent for acting as Lily Rose Depp and Cara Delevingne are able to get hired for movie parts and HBO series, but someone who's actually talented is forced into rock bottom. I guess that's Hollywood for you. I just hope that now, after the success of Everything Everywhere All at Once and the public admiration for Huy Quan, Hollywood will do the bare minimum and actually cast someone of his talent and caliber. I would actually love to see Brendan and Kay in a movie one day. I'd actually prefer that to be sooner rather than later, but you know, Hollywood. The people at the awards ceremonies clapping for Brendan and Kay are the same people who rejected them. I mean, we've all seen the video of Brendan Fraser getting like a 10-minute standing ovation at Cannes Festival. But now we're all supposed to feel as though all these awards they've won remedies what they've been put through. The industry has a short memory, and I guess so do we, because we continue to allow Hollywood to use people of colour as a trend when they want to. Hollywood would rather create roles for the Nepo babies rather than give it to actors like Brendan and Kay, who are actually talented. Their talents didn't just appear out of thin air, and if after years of hiatus these actors are able to provide performances like they did, it's dejecting to think about what we've been missing all these years. From not just these actors, but also from other actors who've been in their situations. Honestly, I don't expect much from Hollywood, and I don't expect anything to change. I mean, the Me Too movement happened, and from what I've recently heard from actors like Grace Van Dien, who's stepping back from acting after being sexually harassed on set, I'm not holding my breath. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. I really enjoyed the research for the video, and especially as a history nerd, it always sounds really weird to say that I enjoy researching about colonialism or racism, but I guess I just enjoy learning new things or looking further into topics. But anyways, please like, comment, and subscribe, and if you're feeling extra generous, please share. Thank you, and have a wonderful week.